She is also a photographer, entrepreneur, and actress as well. She even partnered with a friend of hers and started her own design institute covering short courses and programs in design, which is called Academy of Design. So now let's pass the floor to Aanchal and let us hear her story.
Hi everyone, I hope you've been enjoying the event as much as I've been. So today our topic is reshape, and that word has affected me in more ways than one. So I'm here to share with you all how. So my name is Aanchal Wadhwani, and today I'm 26 years old. And if you were to ask me what I do for a living, the easy answer is for me to say that I'm a creative, because I just do so many things within the creative industry. But the long answer, as I've been introduced, is that I'm a photographer, an art director, an actress, and an entrepreneur. And I'm responsible for two businesses. The first business is Matryoshka studio, where we do photo and video production. And the second business is Academy of Design, where we do short courses and workshops in design. Now, it's not been a really easy and smooth journey for me. I have to say there's been bumps along the road. But in order for me to better explain how I've had to reshape my perspective to get to where I am today, I'm going to take you guys back to a more crucial point in my high school life. The moment where I had to pick my subjects for my board exams. And those board exams were supposed to take me to the best universities. And those universities were going to take me to a successful career. This was a picture that was painted for me by society. I bought this picture, and I believed in this picture. And the only way that I knew how to achieve this picture as a Band 1 student in Hong Kong was to study, 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 study. So when I was picking my subjects, I picked subjects to my strengths. I picked art, because I love art and knew that I wanted to one day do something in the art industry. And to give myself a leg up, I also did a fine art program on the weekends for 2 years. Now, I went into this program thinking, I already know all the basics of art. So I'm going to learn how to do all the complex stuff, and I'm going to beat all the other people at the exam. But when I started a couple of months into the program, I had to learn how to draw lines and how to hold a pencil and stuff that was so unchallenging for me. So when my teacher started to teach us how to shade, he was like, the rule is you have to shade horizontally. I go home and I've never been a stickler for the rules. So I was like, I'm going to shade diagonally. What's the worst that can happen? So I've written stuff back to my teacher. He looks at me and he looks at the work and he says, sit down. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in trouble, because that's what I was used to. I would break the rules and I would get in trouble. But he says to me, it's okay to break the rules once you're a master. Because once you're a master at your craft, will you understand why the rules are there in the first place? And when you understand why the rules are there is when you'll be able to see the gap in where you can sort of break through and see where you can apply your creativity. And that was profound. He didn't understand what he had said to me would affect me so much to where I am today. So I did my board exams. I did well, and I was like, yes, I'm on that path to that perfect picture. I'm going to be successful. But my bubble was burst as soon as I found out that art was not offered in my high school for A-levels. So I had two options in front of me. The first option was to go to a different high school with art, but I had to do subjects I couldn't care less about. Or I break that path and I do a higher diploma. Yeah, it's not as prestigious, but I will, enter an industry that I care about, and I'll be successful earlier because I'll be a master younger. I saw that and I went with that. And I thought, okay, let me approach my parents. And so I tell my parents, and they were like, wait a minute, are you going to throw your studious life away? Are you sure? Is this the right thing for you? But after much discussion, I was headfirst into my life as a fashion design student. And I picked fashion design for one reason only, because I wanted to draw people. It was as simple for me at that point. So my first year as a fashion design student, I approached it like I approached my high school. Study, 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 study. And at the end of my first year as a fashion design student, I participated in a competition at the Hong Kong Art and Design Festival. And I actually brought home the champion prize. And at that moment, that validated for me that I was doing the right thing in the right industry. And it also validated for society that started looking at me like I was a dropout, like I was doing something in an art industry that had no potential, because this was a stereotype for art industries. And because of what I had achieved, I was making a crack in that stereotype. So I felt a sense of pride. And I painted my own picture at that point, a very naive picture. I told myself that I was going to be a millionaire when I was 20. Yeah, it was stupid, but that's what I thought. And then I thought I was going to have a brand as big as Zara. Because all I had to do was work hard. That's all that mattered. So, at the end of my first year, I applied for a lot of internships. I never heard back from a single one. And I didn't understand at that point that it was because I didn't have any technical skills to offer those companies. So I had two choices in front of me. Either I sulk that I didn't get an internship and wait till next year, or I give myself the opportunity that I wanted. And what I truly wanted from the internship was so that I could learn how to have my own fashion business because I wanted to have one in the future. So I thought, let me give myself that opportunity. So I created Matryoshka jewelry so that I could make handmade jewelry and try my hand at a fashion business. I knew how to legitimate my business the same way any 16-year-old would know how to. Facebook. So I made a Facebook page. I invited my friends. I invited my mom so she could invite her friends because they had buying power, those aunties. And then they bought stuff from me. But after a while, how many aunties are going to buy the product? You need to reach a new audience. So I had to create marketing material. And by this time, I was in my second year in my higher diploma. And I'll be honest, I wasn't learning anything in my higher diploma. Everything I did was self-taught. So I was self-teaching myself Photoshop. I was teaching myself sewing. I was trying to communicate with different artists, like photographers, makeup artists, models, to get connections. And so I reached out to a model and a makeup artist. And I thought I was good at Photoshop. So I bought myself a DSLR camera. My dad helped me pick one out. And then I shot this campaign. And I put it together in a catalog. And me and my friend, who's now my business partner, approached dozens and dozens of shops in Hong Kong. And only 2 get back to me. But from those 2, I learned so much. Because they came back to me with real feedback from their clientele. What they liked, what they didn't like, what they wanted to see from my designs, and what they hated, what I could improve on. Stuff that I really, really soaked up. Now, at the end of that year, my 3rd year in my design school, I was doing more competitions. I was doing more photography. I was making jewelry, but my heart started shifting towards photography. And I had a dilemma. Because I was telling myself that I couldn't quit. I couldn't be someone who gives up. And it wasn't because I was afraid to tell my parents. It was because I felt like I had changed the way society thought about art industries and people who do artistic things. They started to look at me as someone who was doing something successful. There was a lot of young people in my community who would look up to me and actually start taking design as something they wanted to do seriously because of me. So if I suddenly turn around and say, I don't want to do fashion, I want to do photography, I would look lost. I would look like a loser. This is what I thought. So I pushed forward. I did an internship, and I hated every minute of it. I hated the relationship between boss and staff. I hated that there was no creativity involved in me. So I quit, and then I sit down, and my mom, who's an educator, she tells me, I need to get security. I have a higher diploma, but I need to do a bachelor's degree. In case my business doesn't work out, I need to get a job. So I was like, fine. My higher diploma didn't teach me anything. So maybe if I do a university degree, I'll learn something significant. I'll love fashion again, and I have photography. I'm making money out of it, pocket money. Win-win. So I started my first year as a design student in a university. And me and my classmates put together a fashion show, which was aired on TEDxHK's TV show called YGA. I did it because I thought it was promotion for myself as a designer and a photographer. I never know who this show is going to reach, so that's what I did it for. Although everyone on the show was casted actors pretending to be young designers. And I did have to do a fair bit of acting and Cantonese. But I saw it as a way to promote myself. But at the end of that year, I reflected. And I realized that I didn't really significantly learn anything in design. I was still self-learning everything. And on top of that, I still love photography. I still wanted to be a photographer. So then I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, why am I torturing myself? My jewelry business is going down the drain because I'm not in love with doing design. So why not do something that I love? So I swapped Matryoshka jewelry for Matryoshka photography. For me, it was a very big change, but for the audience that was looking at me through Facebook, it was a very similar outlook because all my jewelry pictures were anyways photographed by me. But I also registered my business, so now it was like a real thing in my head. And at the end of my 3rd year doing my university degree, I went up to my parents and I was like, this is what I achieved with photography. This is what I achieved with design. And I want to be a photographer. And I was expecting them to be like, oh, you're giving up, I spent so much money in your education. But they very simply told me, do what you love. If you love what you're doing, you will succeed in what you're doing. It's as simple as that. And in my head, I realized that all of this crap that I started thinking about society and all this stuff was just in my head. No one else really felt that way. It was just me, adding pressure on my own self. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to have a new goal, and this time my goal is not going to be so naive. I'm going to be a successful photographer and one day have my own studio, hopefully. So by the end of my third year, my friend, who I mentioned before, approaches me to start Academy of Design. And the reason why we decided to start Academy of Design is because we saw a gap as students who studied in different institutes in Hong Kong and our friends who went overseas to study in different institutes overseas, right? So we saw a gap because we realized that a lot of the schools just focus on creativity. All you have to do is create wonderful, outstanding, creative pieces that make noise. But the reality is you don't learn any technical skills that actually help you to work in the design industry. You don't know how to run a business. You don't know how to manage your accounts. You don't know anything. So we wanted to create a place where people could come on a part-time basis and actually learn real skills from industry professionals. And at the same time, if I'm going to promise these people that the courses are going to be in English, they are really going to be in English. It's not that the notes are going to be in English and the teacher is going to babble in Cantonese. This happens so many times, it is so frustrating. So what we promised, we delivered. And we were successful. And that gave me a little space to do my photography in my own little studio. But the thing is, it took away so much of my time as a photographer to develop my skills and everything. And so I took a step back in photography. And I was creatively frustrated. And it was at that time that a casting director who had watched Y2K approached me for a mini-series for TBS back. And I took this project not because I wanted to be an actress, but I took it because it was like a creative outlet for me. But I fell in love with acting in that process because it was a completely different industry where I could express myself like an artist. So I started doing that a little more seriously, but at the same time I was still an outsider. And I really, really hated that. But I watched other photographer friends of mine, succeed and get opportunities that I wish I had. But as an outsider, I saw something that they didn't. They would do their work, update their portfolio, challenge themselves, and then they come to a point where they achieve success. And when they achieve success, they just keep at that recipe until it comes to a point where they fall. And they don't realize why they hit the floor. But I could see it because as a design student and as a design lecturer at that point, I was drilling my students with one idea. Follow the trends like your life depends on it. And that's because we are not artists. We're not creating work that we think is beautiful and we wish other people would think is pretty and fine. We're creating work that sells. My goal is to sell to you. So I need to understand what you like, and the trends will help me do that. And as a commercial photographer, it's the same principle. If you're a brand and you're hiring me, you're expecting me to create visuals that is going to help you reach your target audience. And if my pictures cannot sell to your audience, I'm going to fail at being a photographer. I'm not going to make any money, I'm not going to book any jobs. And so these photographers didn't realize that they had to constantly update themselves with the times and the mindset. So at that point I realized my art teacher was half right. Yes, you have to be a master at your craft. You have to know the rules before you can break them. But if you are a master warrior entering a battlefield with a blunt sword, no matter your skill, you're not going to do any damage, you're going to get hurt. So the thing that I would like to add to this is that you have to sharpen your tools. Constantly update yourself. My mic is gone all the way to the bottom. Okay. So you have to constantly update yourself. And you have to understand that people change, society changes, technology changes. So if you want to succeed, you have to not only be a master of your skill, but you have to keep sharpening your tools. And no matter what industry you're in, whether you're a student, you're a creative, you are a professional, if you input these two together, I guarantee you success. Thank you.